Welcome to Loyalty is Earned, Becoming the Always Lender. We have Alex on the line, who's the CEO and co-founder of Sales Boomerang, and Ernie, our CEO and co-founder of Homebot. I'm going to turn it over to these guys to get started.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Ernie?
Alex, so let's start with some very sobering stats in our industry. The first one, the number of transactions through the average borrower's home ownership lifecycle. We're going to get in more detail on this, but 11. So every customer that you have, it's definitely more than one, and 11 or fewer transactions. So the reason we bring this up is because we think that you should always be seeing your every prospect and every customer, not just as one transaction, but as multiple. The number two stat here today, and we're going to be coming back to this a lot, is 18%. That just, it makes me want to blink and look down at the ground, Alex. That's the average client retention rate in our industry, and you know, I think there's a lot of reasons why it's like that. But think about that. That means that on average, less than 1 in 5 customers in our industry are going to use the same lender the next time.
Which is hard to become an always lender, right? It's hard to become an always lender when you're only 1 in 5. So
yeah, you're a one-shot lender when you're 1 in 5.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to say something about this stat. I don't think it's people's fault, Alex. I don't, and I just say this really quick. I know we're going to dig into this a little bit more as we go on. I think the history of our industry has lent itself to that being okay. It's okay to only have 1 in 5 repeat because the acquisition of leads was relatively inexpensive, and margins were so much bigger, right?
Yep.
And so the economics of this industry have radically changed over the last 20 years. And the net of it is that the way that these economics have changed and the way the competitive landscape has changed today tell us that 18% is just not good enough.
Yes.
It's not going to cut it. You're not going to survive long term with an 18% client retention rate. Are you happy or sad about that number, Alex?
Yeah, I am very sad. I would like to know what everybody else thinks about if they're happy or sad. I am very sad. And here's the other thing too, and we'll talk about this more again in this conversation. And by the way, everyone, this is a conversation. Dig in, ask questions. You're going to notice that Ernie and I are going to go through the content of this presentation pretty fast. We have an hour for this conversation with you guys, but we're probably going to get through our stuff within 30 minutes. And so we actually want to talk to you for the next 30 minutes after that. So just keep that in mind as we keep going. But Ernie, you know, the other reason that 18% is in existence, in my opinion, is because people in this industry still believe they have to sell a mortgage to someone. And so I just want everyone to hear this, and I'm going to put this in chat in a moment too. You don't have to sell a mortgage to anyone. Everybody wants what you have. Right. So now it's about being a good guide. And because everyone feels like they have to sell something, they try too hard. They push people. And by pushing your customers when they're not ready for you, you're pushing them towards your competitor, and the number's right in front of you. Yeah. And so we'll cover that, but that's another opinion. And so it's a sad stat for sure.
It is. I think you make a good point on that in terms of selling versus being a good guide. And the last thing I'll say about this for now, Alex, is that I think, going what you just said, I also think that success in this industry people have been victimized by their own success insofar as that if you have 1,000 clients, then versus when you started, you had 100 clients, you had the time, and people weren't on social media all the time. You could actually stay connected with them in a really human way. Now you have these huge databases. People are distracted. It's hard to keep people's attention over time. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. So in other words, we're not here to judge on that 18%, but it should be very sobering. I'd love to hear in chat as we go through here, what you guys who are on the call today, what do you think, or what do you know your client retention looks like? Yeah, I'm just curious, is anybody measuring? Is anybody really measuring? And if so, what is it? If not, what's your gut? What's your gut on the client retention? And I'll go ahead and share right now. Whatever your gut is, we're probably going to chop it in half and divide by 4 as the actuals. And then the third stat, and again, these are 3 stats that are going to really dominate the discussion today, is that 33% of all home buyers are first-time buyers. But the inverse of that is that 2/3 of buyers are homeowners.
Yes.
They're pre-existing homeowners. And Alex, I'll just build off of something you just said about like selling. I also think not only are we selling as an industry, we're a hammer and everything looks like a nail. Meaning that when it comes to the purchase market, everybody, you say we're looking at everybody as this buyer with the buyer's needs. But when you turn the paradigm a little bit and look and say, well, wait a minute, 2/3 of these buyers are homeowners. All I can say is I think that unlocks opportunity, tremendous opportunity to serve them as a homeowner first, and then be able to transition into the home buyer. And I think as an industry, we are, we're not thinking about it really the right way with this 2/3 segment, if you will.
Yep. Yeah. This is, I love the way you bring that up. And that's, again, we're going to keep going into that conversation as we move on.
Yeah. So let's go over here a second. So not currently measuring. I think we're about averaging. Christian says about 25% above average. Yeah.
And I think that's above, so Christian, that's above average. So keep post everybody, if you can, post what you think your retention rates are. And Christian, 25% is above average, but just like Ernie said, we'll probably want to divide that in 2 and possibly, cut in half and possibly divide. It's a shocking number. We're going to see some numbers here in a second. You may, Christian, when you see these numbers that we're going to get into, you may see yourself in those numbers, and then you may change that stat. But let's as we move forward, this is a good way to measure too. When you look at this 11 transactions in a consumer's life, this is what it could look like. You look at this and you say, okay, I've worked with some first-time home buyers, and then look and for yourself, if you're an originator, if you're an owner, if you're whatever it is, for yourself, just be like, did I do their second purchase? If I didn't, I probably missed a refi somewhere in there too, right? And so, and then do I meet them anywhere near the third purchase, or these are all events. And remember, it's the average, right? So if you have an average of 11 transactions, some are going to have more, some are going to have less. But where do you, if you were to grade yourself on 11 transactions and you've been in business for a long time, can you say you have customers that you've done 5, 6, 7 transactions for? And then if you can say yes, and you can count them on your hand, and you look at your database and there's 50,000 people in there, that should give you a good indication of where you are in that retention repeat business state. And, Ernie, we talked about before we jumped on this call, we are lucky to have some indicators of what great retention rates look like and what it does to a business. You had mentioned Quicken in our conversation, and saying, look, talk about a company that's doing it right at 71% retention, and look at what they've been able to accomplish. And we're going to get to, now many of you are thinking, oh my goodness, how could you give us an example like Quicken? They're larger than life. We're going to get to a point in our discussion that says, that it's not about all the resources you think they have that you don't have access to. It's actually the opposite. You're able to accomplish those same goals, right, Ernie?
No doubt, Alex. And, and I'll throw out, as you know, Alex, I spent about a decade in the real estate industry. And so if we think about our partners in real estate, their slide for this screen looks very different. If you think about it, all they get is purchase, investment property, purchase.
That's it.
Maybe. In other words, they have less than half.
Yep.
So they have less than half of the transactional reasons to stay connected for retention purposes. It doesn't deplete the value of building a high retention business. But I think it's really unique as an industry when you see a slide like this, say, wow, you've got lots of bites at the apple. You've got to look at lifetime value of your customers. And this is a great way to just start thinking about it. So let's take a look at it empirically, though. So this slide right here, I'm going to kind of step through this really carefully because I really want you guys to get it.
It's a fun one.
It's so, first of all, let's say this is one loan officer with a 200 client database. So 200 past clients. And let's say that they have a 25% retention rate. Again, that's 7 points higher than the industry average. This is what that database generates to them in net commissions over 7, 14, and 21 years. Now, so 150, 180. So think of it this way. This is the data. This is the value of a 200 person database or 200 client database with a 25% retention over time. It was funny, I was just presenting recently at a conference and I asked everybody there, I said, who plans to be in the business for 20 plus years? And they're like, almost nobody in the room raised their hand. And I said 14 years. And like a few people raised their hand. 7 years. And then everybody raised their hand. So this is what the value of this LO's database, the value of your database at 200, if you have a 25% retention. Now let's flip it to 75%. What happens when you triple your retention? Look at this green, you guys. This is no joke. In 7 years, the value of your database is triple with the 75%. And of course, there's a compounding effect. Look at this. After 14 years, the value of your database is quadruple. And at 20 years over your career in this industry, the value of your database is 5 times. These are net commissions in your pocket, 5 times what it would be. And those are the numbers. This is the why you should care about retention. This is why you should care about being the go-to lender, because it's this retention thing it can be hugely profitable.
It's the point of the always lender, right? This is it. Like there's real value there. And what we're not measuring here, Ernie, and everyone that's paying attention is probably understanding this too. You know what you're not measuring? You're not measuring the intangible, the referrals, right? When you build relationships and you're doing somebody's 4th or 5th or 6th transaction, you know them personally, you know what's happening in their life. You're making suggestions. They're bringing people to you because they believe you as that advisor that everyone wants to claim to be in this industry. But you can actually be that when you've done somebody's loan for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th time. You are an advisor. You are their always financial guy. And so they're bringing people to you like, hey, this guy's talking to this other lender or this other person, and they're giving him this advice. I trust you completely. Anything you would say to this, and you could say, yes, it makes sense. Or you could say, no, it doesn't. I would do the things a little differently. And so talk about all of that value that you're bringing to people's lives. Besides the transaction and financial benefit you get, you're also bringing value to that person and their personal lives. So
that's actually the bar that isn't on this graph. And I think that's an amazing point you just made. So we always use the words repeat referral.
Right.
And the nugget you just dropped is that if you crush your repeat business, your retention business, these aren't people that just know your brand. And again, I having spent time in the real estate industry, I always found it interesting how real estate agents still believe in large part that if you just get people to remember your name, that somehow that induces them to use you again or to refer you. And that's not the reality anymore, because everybody's marketing to us from a million different directions. But I think the point here, the nugget, is that this is just the retention numbers.
Right.
And when you have high retention, you have super loyal repeat customers. And those are the types of customers that are significantly more prone to refer you. I would love to see maybe the next webinar we do where we can start to extrapolate a graph on top of these greens, what the referral business is.
Yeah,
but
that would be awesome.
I'll leave the slide with this though. Coming back to, it used to be good enough in this business, in the real estate business, if you could just get people to remember your name. It's like if you just but now everybody is marketing through social media and Facebook and every platform imaginable. I really believe that your name has to have value packaged in it now. You've got to, in order to build a business of retention and referral, your name has to evoke the notion of value that you're bringing. And Alex, I'm going to remind you of one thing right now. Alex and I were just sitting at this conference together recently, and the speaker said, hey, you storytellers out there. And Alex and I look at each other and say, hey, we love to tell stories.
Yeah.
And then he said something that we both really, really connected with. He said, look, you don't tell stories for story sake.
Yep.
Your stories must communicate value.
Yes.
And I'm going to translate that to everything that you do. This isn't just about transaction value, but how are you creating value beyond that? But anyway, I don't want to go too much deeper on this, but I love your point about retention also implies a huge referral value as well.
Absolutely. And look, and we're talking about the life cycle of a buyer, right? Of a consumer, of a borrower. And this is what it looks like with or without Homebot or Sales Boomerang being involved. This is just the life cycle that people go through, right? You go and you buy your first home. Now you're a homeowner, right? And then you go to sell your home. Then you're probably buying another one. So, right. So it just continues to go. Once you become a buyer, you are in this life cycle. And so we, as Sales Boomerang and Homebot, we just fit into the already existing life cycle that these consumers are going through. We're not trying to recreate something. We're fitting right in, right? We're getting involved in the life cycle exactly where we need to be at the moment, that depending on where they are in that life cycle, Sales Boomerang and Homebot fit in perfectly into those places. As Ernie and I talked about, you get to burn the candle at both ends here. With Sales Boomerang, we're creating an outbound opportunity. We're going to show you guys in just a minute, for those of you that don't know, like how Sales Boomerang lets you know that somebody's ready to be a homeowner, maybe homeowner again, or what they may need to do to improve their current financial position with some sort of refinance, or when they're getting ready to sell and buy again. How do we get involved? And that creates an outbound outreach for you, so you can be a good steward. You could be that advisor. Same thing with Homebot. Homebot creates an opportunity where the consumer's like, oh my goodness, I need my lender. I need my loan officer. I need them right now. And I know exactly why I need them. I'm not guessing why I need to talk to them. I know exactly why I need to talk to them, because Homebot made it clear that there's an opportunity that I need to get more insight on for me to make a decision for my life. And so together, you're covering 100% of where you need to get involved in this life cycle, which, by the way, this life cycle exists with or without you, or with or without us.
Yeah.
And so we just fit in.
And Alex, I think that us putting our logos on this life cycle, here's what it really means. It means that our technologies are taking your brand and keeping it omnipresent with your clients as they move through these. These are multi-year arrows, by the way. Yep. But it's not just your brand. It's your brand plus delivering value. And we'll dig into that here in a second, but delivering value, not over weeks or months. I think this industry is really good at delivering value in 30 to 45 days for delivering a loan, right? We're delivering value because you're delivering a functional value, delivering a mortgage for your customers. But moving months and months and years of consistently delivering your brand with value, that's where it gets very difficult. And Alex and I and our companies have worked really, really hard to help you solve this challenge with staying omnipresent. I'll give you one stat that's not on this slide. You see that little homeowner? You see the homeowner right there? So most of us on this call today, you do a purchase loan, they're a homeowner, right? You might have some follow-up after they become a homeowner. The very beginning of that line, between homeowner and seller is about 8 years.
Yeah.
It's about that's an 8-year white line. 8 years.
Exactly.
Remember what I said, a lot of folks don't even consider themselves in the industry for 8 years. So think of that's only one leg of this is 8 years. But here's a stat that it's a stat that was put out by the National Association of Realtors. That homeowner, as soon as they close on their deal, they will remember your name as a lender, and they will remember the name of their real estate agent for 13 months. And then 3 out of 4 people can't even remember their lenders or their real estate agent's name. Think about that, 13 months. That's probably 1/8 of that line. So most people are starting out just dead in the water because people forget their name. But we'll come back to that in a second. I just want to be really clear. This is about how do we help you stay on the loop on this cycle as easily as possible.
Yep.
All right. So speaking of which, let's start with Homebot. So driving client retention with Homebot. So the first thing I'll share with you guys, for those of you who don't know Homebot is what we call is a client for life portal that empowers your clients. So what is it really doing here? Well, it's tracking home value, and it's tracking equity, and it's tracking loans. But then other than tracking, it's doing all of these personalized home finance insights for every single one of your customers. So what does that mean? That means it's helping them understand when to buy, when to sell, when to rent, when to remodel, all of that stuff. And here's the first example. So here's our refi. This is built in. So let's say you have 200 clients and you give all of them their own Homebot portal branded to you. This thing is a portal that they can go to anytime. And when they go into it, it's going to show them all refi options available to them approximately. So it's not using FICO and it's not using income, but it's a beautiful tool that shows them ways that they can save money with a refi. Another way, I'm not going to go through all of these personalized home finance insights, but again, remember this content is always personalized. There's really nothing for you to do. It's just a portal that is private and personalized and live for every single one of those 200 clients, or however many you have, is giving everybody their own perspective. So if you go back one, Luca, so if we're looking at your house, so look at just this module alone, since Homebot is tracking your client's equity, it can now suggest ways on how to use that equity, whether it's home improvements, adding solar panels, or even adding more livable space. Notice that there's a little red piece. I don't know if you can read that. We have fun with this insofar that, we talk about, hey, you might be thinking about taking some of your home equity and using it to splurge on a European vacation, but that's just not a great way to use it, because the larger thesis with Homebot and the way that I believe that we help you become a trusted advisor, there's no gimmicks. You're not just trying to gimmick people into doing transactions. This really, really takes the orientation of being a wealth advisor, or not a wealth, I don't want to say that at a technical level, but advising to people to help them build wealth through home ownership. And you wouldn't advise people to pull cash out of their 401k and go on a vacation or buy a Tesla. Why would you suggest they take it out of their house, especially given that people are retiring on home equity in America? Next one. And then one last module here, which is particularly popular right now. Homebot, by the way, we have over 7 million clients of our customers on the system. And so it's really fascinating to see the engagement across 7 million people every single day, every single month. And this is a really popular one. So I call this purchasing power. This is where it tells each of your clients, hey, here's maybe how much you could afford to buy a dream home, to upgrade, or to pull cash out for an investment property. Maybe you should just sell and pocket the cash. But the point is that Homebot is exploring all of the sort of what if analysis for each one of your customers, your past customers, or folks that just own a home that never actually did a deal with you. You can still give them their own Homebot. And what this does is it causes them to be empowered to understand what's going on. And then anytime they have a question, you see that pink arrow down there? Everything that we do is about making your phone ring. Everything. So it's either a click, a phone ring, a text. We want all of this content to cause people to go, wow, I should really talk to my lender about taking this to the next step. Next.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just Ernie, just that, and everyone here, it's really fascinating. You know, I'm pretty young in this industry, you know, that since we started development in 2016. And when you start to see and hear everyone talk about being advisors and consultants, to not have a tool like this to give not just yourself good information about your borrowers, but to give that information to your borrowers, to have them ask their own questions over dinner with their family because of the insights that were just delivered through Homebot. And then when they reach out to you, you're not going, what are you talking about? You're going, oh yeah, of course. Now you're looking at the same information and you're talking about the same inspiration that got them to call you. That is just, now you're talking about advice. Now you're talking about conversations. Now you're talking about not having to sell yourself to your borrower, but you're having a borrower that goes, thank you for being there for me. Like they're literally thanking you. And I love that your system does this, and you've made it so easy for people to take advantage of it in the industry. So I just wanted to say how valuable this information is.
Thanks, Alex. And I think that the other thing that I will share with everybody is that Homebot, when you think about like a robot or whatever, it's kind of cool because it almost comes off as an Alexa or a Siri for your clients. That it celebrates you and your brand, and you're the ultimate soothsayer. You're the ultimate answer person. But on the other side, from our customer's perspective, you guys, lenders' perspective, this is like having like a digital assistant in 200 offices or 200 living rooms, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I know that sounds a little creepy to have an assistant in all your clients' living rooms, but the point is that it's always cultivating a conversation. And when your client's ready to lean into that conversation, the first thing this little Homebot does is says, hey, you need to go talk to your lender if you want to go to the next level on this. So think about it that way too, is instead of being victimized by your success, in other words, there's only so many hours in the day, you have huge databases, you can't give everybody personal touch every single day of the week. But if you have systems like this, it allows you to become so much more efficient and to really remember, you're going to stay on those lines. You're going to stay part of this life cycles for years, not days, not weeks, for years.
And by the way, right, and I'm going to mention this when I'm going through my piece too, by the way, like if you don't think companies like Quicken have their own ways of staying in touch with their customers with information, Ernie and Homebot just gave you the same firepower as the $100 billion organizations out there. Like he's just this, what Homebot's doing, what Sales Boomerang is doing is literally giving you commercial grade technology and software to be able to do the exact same things without having to have that type of bank account, right? So just keep that in mind as you're hearing this.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, because I think that so many of us in the industry, and by the way, real estate industry too, you look at these massive multi-billion-dollar companies with all this amazing technology and that have really set a tone with consumers. You say, well, geez, what chance do I have against that? Well, you don't need millions. You don't even need tens of thousands of customers. You literally just need to care about all your past clients, whether that's 200 or 2,000, 4,000. You just have to care about that. You take your own little corner of the universe like that. And with this technology, one of the things that we are very proud of, Alex, is that we've built this technology to be able to stand up and go head to head with anybody's technology in the industry, so that when your clients are looking at this, they think one thing: first rate. First rate. Next slide.
Yep.
Speaking of first rate, and this is why I call it investor grade market insights that are facilitating. So when it comes to helping your clients as buyers in that buyer persona, notice what I just did there. I kind of moved from the homeowner persona to the buyer persona. So if you really take care of them as homeowners, then Homebot has amazing insights that will facilitate the same type of engagement as a buyer persona. What does that mean? Like, it literally, we're analyzing MLS data from every market in the US to look at the relative heat of the market. Is it heating up? Is it cooling down? The granularity of that. Really want to help the buyers understand where and when to buy. Everybody's asking this question. Not every market is on fire. There are some soft spots in that market, but if you don't give your customers what I call investor grade market insights, they have no clue. They're just going to get washed up into the wave of, you know, lemmings moving wherever they move. This actually gives them laser focus on helping them make better buying decisions. And what's really important for you guys is that very few, if anybody, is giving them this level of buyer insight. Which, again, what do we want your clients to think when they use Homebot? This is first rate.
Yeah.
This is professional. This is first rate. This is amazing. You know, tracking. You know, this next little slide here is about tracking interest rates and just helping people visualize how interest rates affects their purchasing power. So I'll end it with this. When I use the word investor grade, I think it sometimes might intimate this: oh, it's complicated, it's complicated. If there was one thing that we did at Homebot that I think is, or one thesis as it relates to the consumer, is that it's one thing to give them a lot of amazing analytics or information, but if they can't understand it, Alex, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution.
That's exactly right.
All you're doing is making them feel intimidated and not smart, not empowered. And so everything we do, even though it's a little hard to look on this graphic and see exactly how I'll just say that we really ultimately, at the end of the day, judge ourselves by how frequently consumers engage with this product. Next slide. And that's ultimately the proof of the pudding. I mean, forget everything I just said over the last 5 minutes. If you remember nothing else, remember 50% and less than 2%. Because when I see 50% as the average engagement, by the way, that's monthly engagement. That's amazing. The average month. So if you have a database of 1,000, 500 of your clients are in their Homebot every single month after month, year after year. And for me, all that spells is they're addicted, and they're addicted for the right reasons. Because remember, there's no gamification here. We're really building content that positions you to be that advisor and to really help you empower your clients. And then the unsubscribe rate, what that means is if you have, let's say, 1,000 clients, you can expect 10 to unsubscribe. In other words, this is content that your clients are going to love, and your clients are going to thank you. Even though you may think of this as marketing, your clients won't think of it as marketing. They will thank you. We get this email. One of my favorite emails, Alex, from our customers is where they're forwarding our customer support teams emails from their clients, thanking them for Homebot. And our customers will commonly say to us, I've been in this business for 27 years. I've never had a client thank me for my marketing. And that's why, and I don't like to call it marketing. I like to, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau once said, we spent some time with them once taking a look at our product, and they said, this is consumer empowerment. This is consumer advocacy. This isn't marketing. This is advocacy.
Yeah, it's advice. It's exactly where we want to be. It's exactly why in the study we looked at the top 12, I believe, industries, and mortgage was at the bottom of retention with 18%. And almost every other major industry is above us. And that's because we have not been giving advice. We've been giving reasons to call me so I can sell you something. And it's like, that's not advice. That's just salesmanship. By the way, a great question while you were talking. We're going to get to this. There was a question from Sarita about, hey, how do we use both together? And I said, we will get to that. That's a great question. How do we use Homebot and Sales Boomerang together? It's exactly what we're going to get to. So Sarita, stay tuned. Don't go away. It's going to be a good discussion. Love to get your feedback as we're getting into it, what your thoughts are. Also, Haley raised her hand. Haley, I'm not sure if you can put something in chat, or if we can unmute you at some point in this conversation. Maybe Luca can do that, so that we can answer your question. But I'd love to know, you're raising your hand. I'd love to know what you're raising your hand about, and we'd love to get to that, because remember, we want this to be a conversation. And so I'm going to fly through some of this knowledge here. Let's go and right into it, Luca. So remember, we are looking at where Homebot is getting people to engage and reach out to you when they see there's something important. You had the same question as Sarita. Awesome. Love it, Haley. Fantastic. So stay tuned. We're going to get that answered for you. Love that question. And for those of you that don't know the question, they're asking, how do we work together? How does Homebot and Sales Boomerang work together? And we'll cover that. So look, these are all insights that Sales Boomerang delivers to its lender clients, and letting them know, because look, what does Sales Boomerang do, right? I have a shirt on that you probably can't see because the screen's small. It says no borrower left behind. That's our mission. And it's also making sure that every borrower is in the right loan right now. And so what we do is we tell lenders who in their database is ready for that loan conversation and why. What's the purpose behind it? And so just wrap your mind around the fact that at any given month, your database could produce over 11% of mortgage related activity in your database. That's over 100% over the course of the year, right? So think about how active your database is. And earlier I was mentioning, somebody said they had 25% retention. It's great. And then when you look at these numbers, you're like, oh my goodness, do I get, if I have 1,000 people in my database, am I getting 100 opportunities a month from them to talk to them? That's typically when you get people to go, oh, not even close. So watch this. What does it look like for a month in the life of a Sales Boomerang client? This is very important. These are real numbers right out of the system, from the month of August, by the way. Or actually, no, this one is from July. We have August coming up. This is from July, since we're wrapping up August. This is something important. I want you guys to look at this slide and understand what's happening here. This is an organization with 33,937 records for the entire organization in their database that we're tracking for them right now, with an average loan amount of 225. The first day that they turned this on in July, the first day, 85 opportunities in day one, 85 opportunities day one for over $19 million worth of loan volume in day one. Okay. So when we're talking about remember that timeline, that arrow that said, hey, before this major event, these are the things that are happening in between that time, right? These are the situations where in your database, there's events that are happening that are refi related. There is also purchase related things, but this is in one day, 85 opportunities. Week one, this organization in week one had 514 opportunities for $116 million. Okay. And in month one, okay, again, 33,900 records. This is a small to mid-size lender that is just looking at their database, and before they got started, had a very similar position of, we're probably doing well with retention, better than most. There's no way we're missing lots of opportunities. Day one, we're very used to getting phone calls and text messages and emails going, oh my goodness, did not expect this. I know you guys projected we were going to get this, but did not know this was going to happen. And look, in just 1 month, over $400 million in potential loan volume. That's almost $5 billion in the first year, that in turning on, right, they would have absolutely missed out on. Let's go to the next one. Let's keep this going.
Alex, I gotta say this. Yeah. I had a mentor once upon a time, and he had this expression that there's a penny under your shoe. That's a lot of pennies. And I
A
think
lot of pennies.
whether it's at an organizational level or at an individual level, the point here is you've got all of the business already in your database. I've actually, some of our sales and marketing team have started to use the expression data bank instead of database.
That's
but
right.
I think these numbers right here, it's like the business is already in-house.
100%, 100%. And that's what we've been trying to talk about for the last 4 years is that, look, we believe you can farm, right? And not mine. This is very important. I talk about this. There was somebody, he'd left, he messaged earlier that he was at my presentation at Originator Connect. There's so much farming to do. And the difference between mining and farming is the following. When you mine something, there's a chance that that mine will go dry. But a farmland, you can turn it over and turn it over and turn it over and turn it over and turn it over, right? And so you want to be a farmer, not a miner. You want to farm your data bank, and understand that there's enough opportunity. Look at this. This is a different organization that, in 1 month, does it feed the entire business that they could have done an extra 300 million in 1 month? Yeah, it probably could, right? It probably could feed their whole business, but it doesn't mean you stop burning the candle at the other end, which is getting people to come in, new opportunities. You want both. You want to turn your business into Hotel California. They check in, but they don't check out. Like they're going to be there. And so this is just insights to that. I'm going to give 2 more examples, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A. So in this example, this is something really, you guys go back one. Thanks, Luca. So in this example, this is very interesting. I'm going to highlight something very specific here. If you look at the top, they have 64,000 records as compared to 33,000 in a previous slide. And how come the one above with less records had more opportunities? This is very important. This is an organization that's dialed in. Okay, that's dialed in the borrower intelligence that we have created together. And they're very much focused on very specific types of loans that they want to focus on doing from their own database, certain areas that they're looking at, certain markets, certain dollar amounts. They are now focusing very specifically. They're not taking their database and saying, give me everything. They're taking their database and saying, here's what we want right now. And here's how we want to maximize the opportunities in our database. And I want to call something out very specific about this group. If you look at their EPOs, okay, their EPO, it's line 3 there, 0 on day 1, 5 on week 1, and 8 at the end of the month. Okay. Using their average loan amount, 8 EPOs would have equaled about $2 million in loans. And if we take just, and this might be low, I'm just going to use numbers, 200 basis points, right, on those loans, which you have to pay back, right? When you make that, when you have an EPO, you have to give that back. If you multiply that and you do the math, that 200 basis points, that's about $40,000 in cash, not including the penalties that you would have to pay back, okay? And you multiply that over 12 months, let's say this continues over 12 months, that's over $500,000 in pure cash that you'd have to give out. So besides all of the loans that Sales Boomerang helps create from inside a database, you're also looking at preventing cash coming out of your pocket because there's insights keeping that borrower with you because they're active in the market before you've seasoned it with your servicer. So just keep that in mind. If nothing else, it's $500,000 just pure cash you're keeping in your pocket with an example like this. And I'll give one last example and then let's move on. This is a great example because this is a group that's only using a few things, just a few insights, but look at the size of their database that they're tracking. Nearly 300,000 records. And in day 1 of turning this on, which by the way, this is also a July stat. The last one was August. The first one was July, and this one is July 2. In the first day, $62 million worth of opportunities. By the end of the month, they had $1.4 billion worth of opportunities that they had no clue existed. Okay, this is a large group. They have consumer direct and retail working together. They had no clue this was what was happening inside their database. And for them to have $1.4 billion in the first month, using only four of all of the insights we can give them. When we come back in 6 months and show you the stats on when they turn on everything else, you're going to see that number skyrocket. So the point is this: your database is active. There's life cycles going on inside your database with or without you. You want to be in position to take advantage of those life cycles. And what is the real opportunity here, right? Like you saw all the volume, but how does that volume translate? This is something really cool. This slide is really cool. Before we dive into the Q&A session, because we want to answer the question for Haley and Sarita, and some of you may have the same question too. Something interesting. We're seeing at lowest level performance, right? About 10% of lenders' databases, lenders' volume become database driven. So when somebody turns on Sales Boomerang after 12 months, they look at their volume and they notice that 10% is coming from within their own database, right? We're seeing 20, 30, over 30% of volume coming from their own database. And that makes us very, very happy. You know why? Because look at the next stat below. This is what makes us so excited. All of you on this call know that taking an application, getting somebody started, and the number that comes out the back side of that actually gets pulled through is much different, right? You start with 10, you may end with 6. But here's what's really cool. With Sales Boomerang, when it's coming from your own database, when you've been offering advice, when Homebot's been delivering insights and giving your borrowers the ability to understand something about their current position, their home's position, and you've now become an advisor, you've now been that person that's trusted, because you're not calling to sell, you're calling to service. You're not calling to sell, you're calling to service. Look at what's happening. The average is 70% of every application you take from within your database that Sales Boomerang drove to you, 70% of them. So already a 10% higher than what you're seeing in the market as an average. Our highest performer, and this is, we're so excited, and there's many people that are close to this, but they are our highest performer. 82.23% of every app taken from a Sales Boomerang notification became a deal. All of you listening right now, you jumped on this call to listen to me and Ernie talk for a reason. This is the reason. We're going to drive insights. We're going to create the loyalty for you, but you have to take advantage of it. You have to know that you came to this call to understand what is it that we're doing. Why are you going to be the always lender? This is it. This is how you become the always lender. You have insights that make people call you and go, hey, help me here, right? And then you tell them that, by the way, we're also going to contact you, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, when we see things happening that you may be missing that we can offer advice on, and here are the results from that. And so, look, you've just heard Ernie and I talk about the two different ways that we work together to make you the always lender. Now let's open it up for Q&A and really dive in to some of the things that are on your mind, starting with Sarita and Haley's question. And everybody that wants to chime in and say, yes, we have the same question, give us the thumbs up or a smiley face or something. Ernie, they want to know, how do we work well together? Why both?
Well, you and I were just in Vegas talking about this.
Literally.
Yeah. Where did we end up? We ended up at a really fancy restaurant. What was that called again?
What is it? Chipotle, I believe.
Chipotle. They wouldn't let us.
We could barely get a table.
Barely get a table, but Chipotle would still have us. So the way I like to describe, first of all, how we complement each other is that what we're doing is exactly I should say our why is exactly the same. We're trying to drive more retention and more referral business for you. And the most glaring difference in how we do this is outbound versus inbound. So what does that mean? So Homebot is driving your past client database like a big red easy button to reach out to you and to call you when they're ready to be advised. Sales Boomerang is telling you when to reach out to them. So we really see that as the 1-2 punch here. And it's interesting. I always had top producers with Homebot. So I'd always like pitch Homebot, Alex. So I just say, oh, it's a big red easy button. You don't have to make any phone calls. You just have to answer your phone. And I'd always get a chuckle from some of the top producers. They said, Ernie, with all due respect, I love Homebot, but I didn't get to be a top producer sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. So I guess the compliment here is that from a technical perspective, there's not, we do have some technical integration, but I don't think that's the focus here. The focus is that we're the 1-2 punch insofar as that Homebot makes your phone ring, and Sales Boomerang empowers you to make the right client at the right time make their phone ring. So it's the combination of inbound and outbound.
So well said. It's perfect. Haley, Sarita, and everyone else, does that make sense? Do you understand the value of both and why both are relevant to have and will just increase your retention rates, increase your profitability? Remember, in this compressing margin environment, when you go back to the stat of 70 to 80% pull through, that just shows you that it's a less expensive, more profitable deal to do when your customer calls you asking for advice, and or you call your customer and give them a reason to work with you again because you're advising them, and the conversion on that is so much higher. And so you want both. You just not want, you need both. It's part of the education industry that we're going into here now, right? It's like, and if you notice, and we'll talk about this, and I want to hear some other questions that are popping up. If you notice, the biggest brands, and we mentioned Quicken already once, they don't build sales teams. You know what they do? They build a business. They build a brand, right? They build a company, and not just hiring great salespeople. It's creating a business model, a value-driven business model. Again, Quicken is just a great example of how to do that. But you don't have to have Quicken resources to be successful and have the exact same stats as them, right? The 70% retention stats, which makes them super profitable, you can have that all day long with these two resources at your fingertips. So I just want to make sure it was clear there. Hopefully, Sarita, Haley, that made a lot of sense to you guys. What other questions, Luca? Do we have more questions that we can?
Alex, I got a couple of private direct messages here that were actually both the same thing. I was talking about, I was asking, does this work for people that aren't clients? And the answer is absolutely. Even though we've spent a lot of time today talking about retention and referral of people that you did a transaction with, we actually have learned this from customers. This is a hack. This is a pro tip. This is a really, really shrewd thing to do with these systems, is that sure, you're going to use it with all your past clients, but you also have databases of prospects that you never closed, or you didn't close because they used somebody else. They went with the competition. So what's interesting is we see top producers will give Homebot to the customers that aren't their customers,
right?
Because they say, oh, well, the transaction's over, and the likelihood of my competition following them through the life cycle is 1 in 5, right? So what they do is they're giving Homebot to their competition's clients because they know that they're going to get another bite at the apple. And the common response is, hey, I didn't use you. Why in the world are you giving me something of value? Well, because I'd like to start now and earning the next transaction.
That's it.
And not to go off topic, I got these 2 questions. I was just like, oh, it's such a great, really shrewd technique to use, is that even when you lose, you still have the opportunity to win, as long as you're looking at the long, at the long on this. And I think to Alex's question or comment about the big companies, the reason that these big companies can afford to spend $100 million on a Super Bowl campaign, the reason that they can afford to do loss leader stuff where you're looking at the economics, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's because they're looking at the long view. They're looking at the lifetime value of these customers. And so they can rationalize being super aggressive on the front side because they know that they're going to make margin and pay off in the long term. But you don't have to be, I think to your point, Alex, you don't have to be a monster company like that in order to have that same perspective.
Yeah, very, very, very good point. And while Luca is looking for some questions, when you walk into a Target or a Macy's or a Nordstrom's and you don't buy anything, they still look at you as a customer. So I love that people are using your system, before they buy, because those companies that you walk into, you may walk onto their website. What are they doing? They're remarketing to you all over the web because you didn't buy something yet, but it doesn't mean you're not a customer. You're just not a customer yet. And using Homebot and Sales Boomerang with your prospects, your turndowns, your pipeline is an incredibly good use of the two systems. So awesome stuff. Luca, I don't know if we have anything.
Great. Yeah, we do have some other questions coming in. So I'll start with this one. How do I get my clients into Homebot and Sales Boomerang? Do you integrate to my CRM or LOS, or how do I get my past clients into these systems so they can be retained?
Or I think that was a Homebot question, correct? They asked specifically.
That was for both.
Oh, okay. I'll go quickly here, Ernie. I think our answer is going to be similar. So how do we get our database into and wrapped with this with Homebot and Sales Boomerang intelligence? We both have integrations with the different places that you're all storing your data, typically CRMs. So with Sales Boomerang, you're either uploading a list or we're connecting to your CRM and we're doing it in real time. That's the fastest and easiest way to get your borrowers into the program and live. Ernie?
Very similar. And this isn't going to sound very sophisticated or sexy, but we do a lot of hand-holding, what we call it diamond glove service with individual loan officers, whether it's their worksheets or they're exporting from what other LOS that they have. They can upload it on their own. They can send it to us. We actually have a data ops team, which goes through and QAs the data to make sure that it's clean and it gets imported very nicely. So we do a lot of that to help the individual, all the way to at an enterprise level to where we have APIs that automatically ingest this data on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in a very secure way. So I will say this as it relates to data, as most of you all know, from a regulatory perspective, this is a hot potato issue. You have to, as a vendor, we know that the table stakes of this business is handling the data safely. And so we've got all the compliance, and our cultures are really set up around making sure that we keep your data safe. So we've got the automated and the not so automated systems to easily get your data in, and we keep it safe. I'm going to ask the question that I haven't heard asked is, once your data, what do you do with the data? It's always your data.
Yep.
There's no monkey business here. This is your clients are your clients. They're never shared, never remarketed. It's no different than if you have a Microsoft worksheet that you're using on Office 365 and your database is in Excel. We treat it exactly the same. It's always your data. If you were to ever, stop using one of these systems, that data is completely eradicated from all archives, everything. There is no trace of that left behind.
Yep. I just echo that 100%. Same methodology. That's our belief as well.
Great. And then we had one come into the chat for you specifically, Alex. Is the 70% converted Sales Boomerang app to business in combination with Homebot, or is that on its own? Do we know the conversion rate of alert to app?
You know what? That's Ernie, we should do that. We should have the mutual clients that we have together and look at what their pull through rate is on the mutual. We haven't done that. So that's just individual. For the person who asked that question, it's just the individual stat from Sales Boomerang that we're tracking. But I bet you the numbers are higher when you include Homebot. I would be willing to bet that it would be even higher, consistent, or at least consistently higher than those without it. As far as app alert to app, this number varies depending on the type of organization using Sales Boomerang, division, department, things like that. I'm going to give you some real numbers in what we've been able to see in some different groups, but you can find yourself in between these groups. So one of our top performing groups, 38% of every alert, and this is a big, over 160 branches, probably 180 branches, 38% of every alert delivered turns into an application. And then we have groups that are roughly around that 8-9%, and then everything in between. So that's to answer your second part of that question, alert to app. It's going to depend on the type of organization you have. We do something really interesting. When you guys talk to us, if you schedule a demo, you'll see we do this thing called an ROI calculator, where we give you tell us how many records you have in your database, and we tell you what to expect day one, week one, month one, right? What you guys just saw. Those are actual numbers, but we actually do a projection for you. And in those, we use a very low number. We use a 5% alert to app statistic, so that you're not seeing some 30% numbers and going, oh my goodness, this is it. We can stop doing everything else. But you'll see that we like to use 5% simply to create a benchmark. But we're seeing people in those double digits consistently, some in the 20-30% ranges. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I know we're running out of time here, but I want to say this because, first of all, Alex, it was great hanging out with you in Las Vegas. And I think I just want everybody to hear this, and that is that, both of our companies have grown extremely fast over the last several years. And it's been quite an honor to serve you guys and serve this industry. We are inspired by our customers that are really, they're changing their lives, and they're changing the lives of their past clients by using our technology. And so when, Alex, you spent, a considerable amount of time talking about some of your past clients. I've rolled up some numbers, about 50% over the whole thing, but the net of it is the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
And we have so many customers that are just absolutely crushing it. The pie is big. It is very big. And we just want to help you crush it too. So if you're using Sales Boomerang, we'd love it. An opportunity to take you to the next level with Homebot. And if you're on Homebot, absolutely, you got to look at Sales Boomerang to do the same, because these things absolutely we're doing the same thing, but in very different ways. And I definitely consider it the 1-2 punch of the industry for maximizing retention and really competing against the biggest and the baddest of the bad for the simple purpose of carving your piece out and having a great business.
And Ernie, again, you guys hear how Ernie and I communicate together, and you can see the relationship that we've built. It's because we've also not just have the same intention for the industry, but we also have the same values in building our teams and the purpose and the why behind it. And what you're going to get are people that are committed to helping each individual person on this call and their organizations, because you just said it, we find joy in serving this industry. And so we build solutions to continue to honor that mission. And so I enjoy this so much. The 1-2 punch, I love the way you described it. It's perfect. So I'm just going to echo what you said. If you're with Sales Boomerang, definitely talk to Homebot. And make it a priority. You guys made it on this call. You could be doing anything else with your time right now, but you made it on this call for a reason. If any of this made sense, it resonates, don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Don't be like, oh, I don't want to do what others are doing. I don't want to follow another people. If it resonates, it makes sense. Just do it. There's a reason why we exist. And there's a reason why so many organizations have hung their hat on with both of these brands. Allow us to show you, allow us to serve you and show you. And, we want to be a part of your organization. So I love your message, Ernie.
Thanks, Alex. By the way, you guys, refi season is coming to an end. Long live purchase. Refi means you got a lot of homeowners in your database that you refied. This is a great time to start to shift gears from your refi business into purchase, if you haven't already. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir on that front.
Hey, never hurts to leave them with a reminder. So it's good. We love there's some more. Is there more question? Oh, thanks, Jason. That's a compliment. We got a compliment from Jason, Ernie, the authentic leadership.
Very cool. Thanks,
yeah,
Jason.